Brought to you by Allstate, whose policies now include protection for your home, your family, as well as your car. You're in good hands with Allstate. And now, let's all play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning panel of What's My Line. First, the delightful star of stage and television, Miss Arlene Francis.
And to my left this evening, one of the very best comedians around, whose success has skyrocketed him right into the Empire Room of the Waldorf, where he opens on Thursday night, Shelley Berman.
And to my left, a very charming actress I had the pleasure of getting to know last summer at the Bucks County Playhouse, Miss Faye Emerson.
And on my left, the distinguished publisher of Random House, who only hopes he'll be as successful in 61 as he was in 60, 59, 58, etc., Mr. Bennett, Cerf.
Good evening. I'm sorry to say that for our first show of 1961, our Dorothy Kilgallen has a very, very sore shoulder, and she couldn't be here tonight, so we got Faye, who only has a broken leg. And the next voice and face that you see on this program will be that of our panel moderator, that lordly logomachist, John Charles Daly.
That is the first and probably the only nice thing that Bennett's going to say about me during all of 1961, because I know what it means. Thank you, Bennett. And folks, it's nice to have you all here. I must say, I do recommend unreservedly the glories of the 50th state called Hawaii. It was nice to come home to the weather. I wish I was back in the sunshine sometimes, at least I have today. But it's nice to see so many happy faces over there in the panel. We'll wipe the smiles off those faces in just a moment. Needless to say, you've probably noticed already we have a new member of the family tonight, the Allstate Insurance Companies, and we're very pleased that they wish to join What's My Line. We've been here for a long, long time, many years, over 10 years, and it's nice to have this new member in the family tonight. We'll also have a famous mystery guest before the panel a little bit later in the program, and we'll meet our first challenger after this word. And now let's meet our first challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? Ike Eisenhower. And John Kennedy. Well, draw nigh, gentlemen. I must say you both changed in appearance a good deal while I was away. And it's nice to have you both with us. Would you tell us where you're from, Mr. Eisenhower?
Washington, D.C.
And Mr. Kennedy?
Denver, Colorado.
Where did you say?
Washington, D.C.
Denver, I must say, I hope the president's watching tonight. This is going to be a big shock to him. And where are you from, sir?
I'm from Denver, Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. If you'd said Palm Beach, Mr. Kennedy, or Massachusetts, I'd have fallen over in a dead faint. So may I present our panel, Messrs. Eisenhower and Kennedy, and would you join me over here, gentlemen? Do you know how we keep score on What's My Line?
Yes.
All right, then we'll let the folks here in the theater and those in the viewing audience at home know exactly what your line is. Fine. All right, panel, we can tell you that Messrs. Eisenhower and Kennedy are both salaried and they deal in a product. With that, let's begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Is this product something that one would find in the home?
Yes.
Would it ever be in the White House?
Yes.
Is it a product that I could hold in my hand?
Yes.
Has the president got one?
I think the answer to that must be no. 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Berman.
I'm afraid to pursue this. It sounds dirty. The president hasn't got one. We know that, right? I mean, would I offend America if I asked if his lady has one?
You would not offend America.
No, she doesn't have one?
Yes.
Oh, she does have one. Is this a product that might be used by other women besides the president's lady?
Yes. Yes.
Would this product be used specifically more by females than by males?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Only by females?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Is it...
Now, let me say here that the specific product with which Mr. Eisenhower and Mr. Kennedy are identified would be used only by ladies, but this does not rule out the possibility that the general classification could have an application to men.
What do you say there? I don't... well, since you say that, how's your brother Bob, incidentally? Would I ever have occasion to use a product of this nature?
A product of this nature?
Or we have a product involved here, don't we?
Yeah, well, here again, with your permission, Messieurs Eisenhower and Kennedy, I would say that you might have occasion to use the product in its general identification, while it's not true that you would use the specific element of product which is represented here by Messieurs Eisenhower and Kennedy.
You're making me crazy. Would my wife use the product?
Yes.
That's peculiar because I'm not married. No, I was just being facetious. I am married, and I have a very lovely wife. But she would use the product. Is it something that
Shelley,
she...
that's what you call climbing back down from the limb, is it?
Yes. Would this be a product that is worn?
Yes.
Would it be worn above the waistline?
Yes.
Would it be worn also a little below the waistline?
Yes.
I guess it's pretty much worn all over, isn't it?
How long you've had it?
Is it something that you can see? I mean, if my wife was wearing this, would I be able to see it?
Sometimes.
With your wife, maybe.
Yeah. Would I see it?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Suppose I had a good friend.
Mr. Berman, would you like to pass?
As a matter of fact, I think it would be dangerous for me to continue. I will pass right now.
Miss Emerson?
I gather, then, that the names Eisenhower and Kennedy really have nothing to do with your product. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Is this something that a lady might be wearing while walking down the street, but it would not be visible to the naked eye? We hope.
Yes. Yes.
Is it not just for ornamentation, then? It serves some utilitarian purpose?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think so.
Yeah, I guess you could describe it as utilitarian.
Would there be some ladies that require the use of this garment more than other ladies?
Yes, so. I think so.
Well, let's say that some ladies would seek more from it than others would.
Would it be in the nature of an undergarment of any kind, which is a pretty refined way of saying a girdle or a bra?
General term.
Girdle?
Yeah.
You make girdle.
I must say that it's very early in 1961, and I should avoid this sort of thing, but I can't, because if I don't do it, Bennett will be right up behind me. I'd say this is putting down a pretty good foundation for 1900.
I'm stretching it a bit, but...
John, I wouldn't have said that.
You wouldn't have said that?
No, sir.
Well, actually, Bennett, you didn't know that both Messieurs Eisenhower and Kennedy worked for the H.W. Gossard Company, which make foundation garments. It's not a very funny story, I'm afraid. But there you are. Mr. Eisenhower has the territory in Baltimore and Washington, and you have Wyoming and Colorado.
Rocky Mountains.
Well, I would say it's fair to assume you both cover a great deal of territory.
That's right.
Are they related in any way?
Are you related in any way to the president's family?
I'm not related.
Are you any related?
Nor am I.
No?
For a while there, I was positive they sold skin.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kennedy
Thank
and
you.
Mr. Eisenhower. It was nice to have you on our first program.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's a very good idea. Mr. Kennedy, I think, reminded us all of something. It's still time for us to say in unison, Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
I said unison, panel. There we are. Well, let's try our second challenger. Would you enter and sign in, please?
Roosevelt.
Mrs. Roosevelt.
Ruby Logsdon, is that right? Is it Miss or Mrs. Logsdon? Mrs. Logsdon, and where are you from?
Louisville.
Louisville, Kentucky. Nice to have me. I present our panel, Mrs. Logsdon. How do you do? Now, will you join me over here? Mrs. Logsdon, you know how we keep score.
Yes, I do.
All right, then we'll let the audience here, the audience at home, know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, Mrs. Logsdon is self-employed, deals in a service. And let's start the general questioning with Bennett Cerf.
Mrs. Logsdon, there are three things I'd like to eliminate from Louisville, if I can. Famous for the Kentucky Derby, famous for a wonderful newspaper, the Courier-Journal, and famous for distilleries. Can I eliminate all those three from the service that you perform?
Yes.
Does the service that you do then perform relate to human beings?
It relates to human beings, but I must say, you know, there's almost no area in which Mrs. Logsdon might be occupied which would not have some relation to human beings.
Well, then can I eliminate the fact that you have anything to do with the bodies or the brains of the people whom you perform the service for?
Specifically, yes. Mm-hmm.
You then perform some service outside of their bodies.
Yes.
Does this service enable something that they own to work better or to be better?
Something they own to work better or to be better?
Yes.
Well, I would think that when you got through with your service, what they own would not be better, would it? No, I don't think. I think I've got to give you a no there, Bennett. 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Fences.
Do you have anything to do with houses or homes in your service? Or furniture, furnishings?
Yes.
Would you have anything to do with house wrecking or...
For Lord's sakes, ready?
Well, that really was pulled out of the blue for New Year's.
That sweet little woman, a home wrecker.
Actually, that's right. Mrs. Logsdon is a house wrecker. She owns the Bluegrass Wrecking Company in Louisville, and you'll be glad to know that wrecking all kinds of buildings, it takes, what, anywhere from how many days? 3 days to a week to knock a building?
Oh, it could be from 3 days to 3 months.
To 3 months to knock a building down.
Depends on what it is.
But the one thing, Mrs. Logsdon gets right out there and takes a hand with a pick herself.
You don't
That's
use one
great.
of those great big balls that they swing against the building.
We haven't yet. If we had anything big enough, we would. But Louisville doesn't have any real big buildings like New York does.
Well, I must say, we thought this was going to stand the panel on its ear. That's the first good exercise for 1961. And thank you very much for being our guest, and may we wish you a happy New Year and much success wrecking buildings. We'll meet tonight's mystery guest in just a moment, but first, a word from us. Now, Bennett says I owe Mrs. Logsdon an apology, and he's probably right. He said I gave it away when I said that the product was not to be improved by the service that you did. Well, I'll make it up to her, Bennett. And now we come to the special part of our program, with which you are all so familiar. Mr. Berman. Needless to say, the panel is supposed to be blindfolded, Mr. Berman. Up anchor there a bit. No, down anchor a bit. All right, the blindfolds all in place, panel?
Yes.
All right, will you enter Mystery Challenger and sign in, please? As you know, in the case of our Mystery Challenger, we go to a different form of questioning. You ask one question at a time, in turn, moving clockwise. And let's begin with Faye Emerson.
Oh, that's a marvelous, warm reception. Obviously, you're known to the public, the general public. Are you in the field of entertainment or the arts?
Yes.
Mr. Cerf?
Are you at present starring in a show on Broadway?
Yes.
Miss Francis?
Are you, have you been enormously popular in pictures and television? It's almost impossible.
You have your answer to that one already, Mr. Berman.
Was that yes?
Yeah.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Berman.
He's trying to sound like the Luba.
You've got to be a she. Are you a she?
Oh, what?
A she.
Oh, yes.
Miss Emerson?
Oh, boy. You're a doll. Are you a red-headed wildcat?
I suppose those are two of the multitude of terms of affection that are always used when you are mentioned.
Thank you, John.
Wildcat and a doll.
John, I would like to add that she is one of the blessings of this season and an adornment to the theater. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Arlene.
And the Wildcat, by the way, unless anybody misunderstands, is that Miss Ball is starring on Broadway in a new musical called Wildcat. We did not say you were a Wildcat, ma'am. We didn't mean that, ma'am.
We may.
It's all right.
Yes, I did.
It's all right?
We did.
It's all right.
You did?
Okay.
Well, I guess that...
I don't mind it. I kind of like it.
You like it? You like it? This is a...
I lost 12 pounds getting that way.
You mean getting to be a Wildcat?
Yeah.
Or rehearsing for the Broadway person? Sure.
Rehearsing and doing it. If anybody wants a diet to go on, just get in a musical show. That's it. Am I right, Arlene?
She's
Faye?
on there every minute, working and playing and
I love
dancing
it.
and singing, and she's
I've had a
marvelous.
wonderful time.
Miss Lucille, you have had a wonderful career in the theater, in television, in the movies. Does any one of them appeal to you more than the other?
Well, I'm very grateful to television. 9 years with a character that I love very much. I love Lucy. I really do. I love doing Lucy, and I'm having a sort of a dream come true doing a show on Broadway. It's taken me a long time to come by this. It was what I wanted to do, to be on the stage when I first started years ago, and I never had time. So I'm delighted to finally be here. What are you doing, George? What's that?
V for victory. That's the V for victory sign. Well, I'd say the Broadway stage, as Arlene has already noted so well, is extraordinarily lucky to have you. I've
Thank
been
you.
off to Hawaii, but one of my anticipations is that I can get to see Wildcat, because I want to see Miss Lucille Ball
Thank
on the
you.
Broadway stage.
Thank
Her
you.
new picture's opening soon, too, isn't it, with Bob
Thank
Hope?
you,
It's a
Arlene.
Oh,
wonderful
with Bob Hope, The Facts of Life. The two of you
February
together.
1st.
The two of you together must be a shambles and a joy. That's
We had
all
a
I can think
wonderful
of.
time.
It's a funny
He's a great guy.
Did you see it,
I
Faye?
saw a preview
Oh,
of it. It's
good.
a great picture, and I think it's going to be up for an award.
Oh, my. That'll
Very
be the
unusual
day.
for a comedy.
That'll be a day when a comedy gets an award.
But the wonderful thing about Bob Hope again, you know, this Christmas he was off to see the troops overseas. that
Well, the
are
wonderful
parked in
thing
a
about
far
Bob
corner.
Hope is Dolores.
Yeah, she is a doll. She's
That's
a
how he gets
wonderful
off every
girl.
Christmas.
Yes, if Dolores didn't say yes, he couldn't. Thank you very much,
Thank
Miss
you.
Lucille. Nice to
Thank
have you with us. Well, I must admit you've done very well so far tonight, panel. We'll have another contestant after this word from our alternate sponsor. And now another contestant. Will you enter and sign in, please? Mary and Creighton Coleman, right? I am right in saying Mr. and Mrs. Coleman, right? Mr. and Mrs. Coleman, and where are you from?
Battle Creek.
Battle Creek, Michigan. Oh, yes, I know that country. I went out there once many years ago. Ate so much breakfast food, they had to carry me out of town.
Caroline's, I suppose.
But it's nice to have you with us. May I present our panel?
How do you do?
Would you join me over here now, please? Excuse me if I go in first. Mrs. Coleman, you know how we keep score?
Yes,
All right, if we know how we keep score, then let's let the audience here and the audience at home know exactly what your line is. All right, panel, we're very short of time, so very quickly I will tell you that Mr. and Mrs. Creighton are salaried and deal in a service, and we'll begin the general questioning with Shelley Berman.
Would your services be applied to me, for example?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yesterday's water. Are your services used by both men and women?
Yes.
Mhm. Would I have to come to you to get the service that you render?
Yes.
Is it, would you in any way come into physical contact with me?
No.
No. 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Emerson.
It's a shame.
Do you work in some kind of enclosure for these services? Or do you give these services in some kind of enclosure?
Yes.
Do you wear any special kind of, not uniform, but clothes or something for your services?
No.
Yes.
Oh, you do? Yes and no?
So you get a yes and no.
Oh, one of you does, the other doesn't. Oh, but you do work at the same service.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. If he wears it and she doesn't. Would it be in any way in a counseling line or a legal or...
Could be.
Yes.
Do you have anything to do with education?
No, not specifically. 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Do you work, Mr. and Mrs. Coleman, it is? I swear I've met you both.
I think it's likely myself. Actually, this is too bad because I do wish we had a little
I know
more
it.
time. What
I
are
think
they?
They've got to be policemen or something.
Now, they're in government work somehow or other.
Yes, Faye.
Judge?
Judges are right, but they're all over.
Arlene had the same idea. Is it judge and what?
Well, actually,
Judge.
Judge in the circuit court, Mr. Coleman, and judge in the probate court, Mrs. Coleman. So Mrs. Coleman does not wear judicial robes normally, whereas Mr. Coleman would wear his judicial robes
That
normally.
lady's a judge?
A judge elected both of them to office, and more than that, Mrs. Coleman was Miss Maryland, I believe. Were you not when, before you were married? Miss University of Maryland? You know Dr. Ray Ernsberger at the University of Maryland?
No, I
He
don't.
practically brought me up.
John.
This was a
You're married
long
man
time
now.
ago.
Yes, yes. Well, may I thank you both for being our guests, and I'm sorry we didn't have more time, although the panel was very sharp. I must say. We're a little bit tight for time tonight, so I will say for all of us, if I may, Happy New Year and good night, and thanks for being with us on What's My Line?
What's My Line is a CBS television network production in association with Mark Goodson and Bill Todman. Contribute generously to United Cerebral Palsy for research and rehabilitation services for the nation's 600,000 cerebral palsy children and adults.
What's My Line?